Have you ever had questions about the tools that are used in stained glass or what tools you might need to start off with? Well, in this video today, I'm going to talk about the tools that I use in the stained glass pieces that I create and some of those basic tools that you might need to get started. So let me show you the tools that I use. Ensure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about tools and the tools that I use in my stained glass projects. Talk about some of the basic tools that you may need to get started in stained glass. So I'm going to talk about these tools in the way that they're used in the stained glass process. So the first step is to obtain a pattern. And you can obtain a pattern from drawing one yourself, one from the internet. You can purchase one, whatever is best for you. Once you've got that pattern and you've got it printed out or you have it drawn out, depending on the method that you're going to use to transfer it to the glass, you may need a pair of scissors. You could use a regular pair of scissors like these, and just when you cut out the pattern, just ensure that you're staying on the inside of that line. Or you can use what they call pattern foil shears. Ones that look like this. They have a gap in the center, so it's basically two blades and a center blade, and it just cuts out just the right amount of paper to create the gap for your foil. So once you have your pattern cut out, then either you're going to use the glue method or you're going to use a trace method onto the glass. So if you use the glue method, you may need some glue. Stick glue works best. Just for the fact that it goes on fairly easy. Just stick it on and rub it on. And then you also may need one of these, Sharpie. I use the Sharpies for tracing, even if I'm using the method where I'm just putting my pattern underneath the glass and tracing onto the glass itself, and I'm not actually tracing around a pattern. If you're using darker glass, you're going to want to have maybe a silver one. Black may not show up very well. So now that you've got your pattern traced onto your glass, then you're going to need a couple of things. One is a glass cutter, and there are different types of glass cutters. I'm going to show you the three that I use most of the time. This one is a pistol grip cutter. I use that a lot of times for heavier glass. Then you have what they call a pencil cutter. Pretty nice to have for straight lines. You get a lot of control. And the last one that I use, and I usually use this one for small cuts or rounded cuts. It just gives me a little bit more control. It's what they call a saddle type cutter. It really works well for me. That is actually my go-to for most of the time. And you'll see that in the video. I use that cutter a lot. If you're cutting on straight lines, you're going to want a ruler. That way you can run your cutter along there. Now they do have a glass square. I recommend that. I'm actually ordering one myself. I was getting started, a year or two ago. I didn't want to spend a lot of money. So this was, I already had this at home. So I just used a straight edge. But, it's whatever works best for you. But I am investing in a glass square. I just feel that it's going to work a little bit better for me. And if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed, ensure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you get notified when I load new videos. So now once you've got your glass, scored and everything, then you have to break the glass. Now you can break it by hand or you can use what they call breaking pliers. And they'll look like this. I would suggest getting ones with the rubber tips on them. Just kind of helps with the glass. And then a lot of people get these and they are not quite sure what to do with this screw. This screw is to be adjusted for the thickness of your glass. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to crush the glass. You just want to put enough pressure because it's concaved at the top, and then the bottom gives you more of an opposite curve on it. So that way when you actually break the glass, it breaks in the form of, these help you run the score line and actually break the glass on a lot of straight and slight curvature type lines. And on these, on a lot of them, there's a line on the top. You'll line up that line with your score line and actually press down, and it will actually break that glass along that score line. So I kind of pre-scored a line on this piece of glass right here to kind of demonstrate how this will break. And you see that it broke right along that score line. This way. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that that screw is set appropriately for the thickness of your glass. If you get in situations where you're working with a small piece, those breaking pliers won't actually fit onto the piece or have enough room to actually break the piece, then you're going to want a pair of grossing pliers. These grossing pliers, they got a flat side on the top and a curved on the bottom. I've always been taught to ensure that the flat tie is always on top. So then that way you got a flat and you're actually breaking and pulling away at the same time. And then if you just need to nibble away at glass, it's got that rough edge on both ends, and you just kind of make this nibbling motion, nibble out the glass. Now, these two are recommended to have in your toolbox when you're starting out with stained glass. I have an additional grossing breaking plier, and it's a little bit smaller head. It is a 1/4 inch head. The other one is a 1/2 inch. And I actually use these for when I'm pulling out small cuts, especially small circular cuts or inside curve cuts, or I'm real close to the end where it comes to a point. I like to use these because that's a vulnerable point. And if you're trying to use the bigger grossing pliers and you don't have a really good score, when you're trying to break away and push, it may actually take the crack and run it off and hit that tip piece off. So now that you've got your glass scored, broke your glass along those score lines and used the different tools, then you got a way to smooth out that glass. You have a grinding stone that is manual, and you could just rub your glass on that to get all the little shards and kind of smooth out the glass. Or you could have a grinder that will have a grinding bit on it, and you have different bits you can actually purchase with that grinder. You can use that grinder to smooth out and grind away pieces of glass. So after you have your glass grinded down and all smoothed out, you're ready to go on to the next step of foiling your glass. I would invest in a foil caddy. It really just kind of helps keep everything kind of organized. But starting off, you may only want to use the silverback copper foil. That foil is versatile for a lot of the projects that you'll start off doing. The silverback will work with your silver lead. So you don't want to use blackback copper foil on pieces where you're not using black patina. On, say, clear glass or cathedral glass or semi-transparent glass, that black backing will actually show through. Now that you have your pieces foiled, you're going to need something to burnish that copper foil onto the glass just to make sure it really sticks well. I use this type of straight edge and to burnish the pieces down. Some people use what they call a fid. It's got a flat side on the back side, and it's got this curved area and a point on it. This is actually used to spread out cane to widen it to depending on the thickness of your glass. And then also you can actually use it on the zinc edging as well. Some people actually use the back end edge of their Sharpie. Just something that's going to really take to that copper foil and burnish it down really well and get it to really adhere to that glass. Because you got to remember, you're going to be applying heat. So when that heats up, it may have a tendency to start pulling away. So when you burnish it on there, it ensures it gets really good adhesion to that glass. So now that you've got your piece burnished on there, then you're going to need a soldering iron. So here's a soldering iron I use. I've got a little stand for it. I keep a wet sponge. So now that you've got your soldering iron, now you're actually ready to solder. So there's a couple things that you're going to need when you start to solder. You're going to need a flux brush, just something that kind of looks like this, just an acid type resistant brush. So there's a couple different flux types that you can utilize. Starting off with, I would probably suggest is regular liquid flux. It does smoke quite a bit. so you're going to want to wear a mask, or you could actually purchase one of those smoke remover fans for soldering. What I use is a gel flux. So when you actually put that flux on, it stays put. This particular flux is non-smoking, so it doesn't have a lot of odor with it. So that's the reason why I utilize it. Another type of flux that you have is a paste flux. This paste flux, I haven't used it. I bought some because I wanted to try it out. I have heard that it is harder to clean off. So when you think about when you're going to clean your piece after you solder it together, liquid flux is the easiest to get off. Then it's the gel, and the paste is about the toughest to get off. You just want to make sure that you clean off that flux really well. So now your soldering iron is all warmed up, you're copper foiled, you have your piece fluxed. Now you're ready to start off soldering your piece together. First off, you're going to tack your piece together. There's a couple different solders you can use. You have a 60-40 solder, and then the 60-40 is 60% tin and 40% lead. They do have a 50-50 type solder, which is 50% tin, 50% lead. So those are the two leads that I utilize when I'm soldering my projects together. So now that you got your piece soldered together, your next step is really to clean it. There's some various cleaners that you can utilize. You got CJ's Flux Remover. I use Dawn dish soap. It actually works really well. Cuts through that flux pretty good in a scrub brush, and it seems to get it off fairly well. You just have to find what works best for you when you're cleaning your piece. So these are the tools that I use in creating my stained glass pieces. I'll leave a list of the basic tools that you might need to get started. I'll leave a link in the description below to a lot of the items that I showed you in this video. Feel free to click on those links. It is an affiliate link. It's just a way that you can help support the channel and for me to continue making these videos. If you found the information I provided today helpful, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment in the comment section if you have any questions. And if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you get notified when I load new videos. With that, I'll see you on the next video.